Episode 4 of Ahsoka is out, and with it comes, in my opinion, one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars media in recent memory. There is so much to talk about, and I'm going to explain why I feel the way that I do. So we're going to break down the episode real quick, and then I'm going to give my thoughts. Before we get started with this video, we have finally hit 550 subscribers. Every single one of you, yes, you, are incredible. And if you guys want to keep up to date on everything Ahsoka, Star Wars, and want to join a community of people who love talking about this stuff, please consider hitting that like button and the subscribe button. It's free. But with that out of the way, let's quickly recap what happens in this episode because a lot does happen, and I want to spend most of my time just talking about all the things and what they mean symbolically and just what I thought about it. So let's do this. This episode opens up at the same spot that we were at last week, with Ahsoka and Sabine searching for the map to find Thrawn. Ahsoka tells Sabine that it is more important to destroy the map to Thrawn rather than letting Morgan Elsbeth get it and use it, even if that means Ezra Bridger is lost for good. You can see the conflict in Sabine's eyes already, and it definitely sets up events that happen later on in the episode because look, her one option of rescuing her friend who is lost is sort of on the line here. Ahsoka tells her, look, if you can't retrieve it, you have to destroy it. Because stopping the return of Thrawn is actually way more important than the return of Ezra Bridger. And that was extremely tough for not only Ahsoka to tell, but for Sabine to hear. I love the eerie sort of quiet feeling of this planet, and I think it really establishes the tone of this episode super well. We also see that Sabine and Ahsoka are being stalked by the HK droids, because this planet is actually the same planet that Baylan and Shin are using to find Thrawn with the star map. So they're all together, all on one planet. You know there's going to be a conflict. And yes, there is tons of action in this episode. So with that being said, Baylan sends Shin and Marok out to find Sabine and Ahsoka and stop them. The episode then has its title card, and just from these moments alone with the very beginning, this is 100% George Lucas Star Wars. I'm gonna say it every week because every week it delivers on that OG Star Wars feel. Go back and watch the prequel trilogy, go back and watch the original trilogy, the editing, the shots, the composition, the waiting time between dialogue, all of it is very reminiscent of original Star Wars, and I'm just so happy that we're getting it. Huyang is making repairs to the ship when he suddenly gets attacked by the assassin droids, and Sabine and Ahsoka go out to help. We then catch up with Hera, who is going against the ruling of the Senators, and she's going out to find Ahsoka and find Sabine to help them find Ezra. Here we get a great cameo from the one and only Carson Teva from the Mandalorian series. I love Carson Teva. He's been a very sort of important side character, and I really hope they use him more because I'm really interested in him being a staple in the series moving forward. I should mention that this episode is called Fallen Jedi and really sort of talks about many different things, and it really is symbolic towards many different aspects of the episode. For one, we have Baylan. Baylan has many lines throughout this episode where he reminisces on the past, and we'll get into a lot of those later, but one that he says when opening the star map is that he lost faith a long time ago. Morgan Elsbeth opens the star map and starts finding the route for the hyper ring to go to Thrawn's location. Meanwhile, Ahsoka and Sabine are running through the forest, very Jedi-esque, and they run into Marok and Shin. Now, while Shin takes on Sabine, Ahsoka is left to duel Marok, and we actually have some very cool Star Wars stance movements going on, not only in this scene, but in a scene later on. While revving up his blade, Ahsoka preps herself for the fight ahead, and this is very symbolic because it actually calls back to the duel between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul in Star Wars Rebels. Marok is very confident, spinning the lightsaber, and when Ahsoka goes to strike, it's just one hit, and then they're done. Now, remember what I told you guys, Marok was most likely a new character that we hadn't seen before, and this confirms it. Marok dies from the one slash from Ahsoka, and then a bunch of smoke sort of pours out of him. I'm wondering if this is just a certain alien species that does this, or is this a life essence that travels between people? I don't know. Maybe this was a former body of an Inquisitor. Maybe we'll learn more about this. I don't think we will, just because we have so much to look forward to that doesn't have anything to do with Marok, but I'm glad that, you know, we can focus more on our characters now, not having to deal with Marok being in the picture anymore. Very cool character, very brief character, but I enjoyed the presence of them, especially with the fight scenes. The lightsaber duel at this moment between Shin and Sabine is also very telling because these are two apprentices. One has had more talent, more training than the other, and Sabine gets bested here. She tries using the Force, but she doesn't have it, and Shin just straight up calls her weak. I love Shin's character. I think she's an amazing addition to the Star Wars universe, and more stuff happens with her later on that makes her character even more interesting. Since Marok has been dealt dealt with, Ahsoka sprints to go find Baylan with the star map while Morgan Elsbeth goes up to the hyper ring to get it ready to leave. And here we have some very, very impressively dramatic moments between Baylan and Ahsoka. Baylan brings up Anakin Skywalker, saying that he knew Anakin, but not many people knew what he would become. Of course, that being Darth Vader. He kind of spits in Ahsoka's face here, telling her the reason that Anakin probably turned to the dark side was because she abandoned her. Ahsoka says, "I'm not here to discuss my past," and then they set up the duel. This felt very, very samurai again. I loved this fight because while these two are dueling, and the setup for the duel actually does take some time, they sort of study each other and again go through the different lightsaber stances. We have Baylan, who is a complete powerhouse. It reminds me a lot of the heavy stance from Jedi Survivor, and Ahsoka constantly has to switch her way of fighting to sort of combat him. She actually only uses one blade during this duel. The choreography was such a step up from things that we've seen in the past, and while we have this masterful fight between Baylan and Ahsoka, we have this novice apprentice fight between Shin and Sabine. It was very poetic. I loved it because we have a master who is in total control. We have a master who is just learning to control the Padawan. We have a Padawan who has a lot of anger and can't be controlled, and then we have a Padawan, Sabine, who is finally learning to control herself. There are so many different layers to these duels, and if you go back and watch them again like I did, you'll sort of pick up on the elements a lot more thematically. We see Shin escape Sabine and pull up on the fight between Baylan and Ahsoka. Now it's at this moment that Ahsoka freaks out because having Shin be there means that something had to have happened to Sabine, but we know that she's okay. By Ahsoka letting her guard down, Baylan actually gets the upper hand on her, and when Sabine finally approaches to destroy the map, Ahsoka tells her to do so, but Baylan knocks her off the edge of the cliff. At the time, Shin is actually knocked out, so this moment is primarily just between Baylan and Sabine, and we get a dialogue between a master and a different apprentice, but he sort of manipulates her, knowing that she wants to find and rescue Ezra. He uses this to his advantage and gets the star map from Sabine, saying, "If you give it to me, I promise no harm will come to you or Ezra Bridger." So no, this isn't really a turn to the dark side for Sabine. She's just sort of sacrificing a lot of things to protect and rescue the one she loves, which I don't know if they're in love. I know they're best friends. But this reminded me a lot of Empire Strikes Back. Not a happy ending to an episode. And while it isn't a happy ending, it opens up so much more for excitement and theorizing about what could possibly happen next. We know Morgan, Baylan, Shin, and Sabine are going to the new galaxy to find Thrawn. In another very important moment here, we see Shin wake up and force choke Sabine, but Baylan tells her to stop. You can tell Shin is very, very aggravated, very annoyed, and very rageful towards this character already, and this character being Sabine. So we have Baylan now maybe having sort of two apprentices, but she's technically more of a prisoner at this moment, so I don't think Shin likes to have her around, but she understands that Baylan is not necessarily a bad guy. He just has goals, and his goals seem to be preventing a greater evil by committing a sort of lesser evil. We also get a very Star Wars scene after this. While Morgan is up in the hyperspace ring, we see Hera and the X-Wings emerge from hyperspace to help, but it's too late. The hyperspace ring goes full steam ahead, knocks several X-Wings into each other. They all blow up, but luckily, Jason, Hera, and Carson Teva are okay. Jason, of course, says the very cheesy, "I got a bad feeling about this" line, but that's Star Wars, guys. It's been in every project. It's Star Wars. Now look, of course Ahsoka did not die from that fall off the cliff. We know Jedi survive plenty of different falls, but when we get back to her, she's not where we left her. We do a slow pull out and we find out that Ahsoka has been transported to the world between worlds. Fans of Star Wars Rebels can recognize the world between worlds as an extremely important mythos sort of aspect to Star Wars, and the implications of it in live action are limitless. While it isn't described as a way to time travel, it is sort of a looking glass to all sorts of events that have happened throughout the Star Wars universe. We saw Ahsoka actually be saved by Ezra through the world between worlds in Star Wars Rebels, and without Ezra pulling her out of time, she probably would have died. But guess what? When she gets up, she hears the voice of the one and only, the chosen one, her master, Anakin Skywalker. I was losing it at this moment because of course we hear the first line, "Hello Snips," which Snips is the nickname that Anakin gave her during the Clone Wars. And not only do we hear the voices, we turn around and there he is. Anakin from the Revenge of the Sith. Yes, they have de-aged him a slight bit, but this is the character, this is the look that she recognizes the last time that she saw Anakin Skywalker, so it makes perfect sense. And wow, what does this mean? I was sitting, throwing my hands in the air, screaming, so happy that we finally see Hayden Christensen back as Anakin Skywalker in this series. And this is the ending teaser for the episode. The next episode is going to be directed by Dave Filoni, so you know it's going to be incredible and full of Anakin and Ahsoka, maybe even some flashbacks. So now that we've recapped the episode, let me give my thoughts. This was everything that I wanted a Star Wars TV show to be so far. We are halfway through the season, and this episode alone could possibly stand on its own as one of my favorite TV episodes in any of Star Wars. You have tons and tons of action. You have a little bit of political drama with Hera leaving and going against the Senate's wishes. You have the relational drama between Sabine and Ahsoka, Baylan and Shin, Baylan and Ahsoka, Shin and Sabine. I mean, what else could you possibly ask for? And to top it off, you bring the Chosen One back, the lore implications with the world between worlds, all of the intrigue is there, and it's only going to get better from here. This was the Empire Strikes Back-esque episode that we all needed. We didn't really need it because the other episodes were, great so far, but this was just fantastic. I'm praying that these last 4 episodes are just as crazy, and I've heard from sources that the last 4 episodes are absolutely going to be mind-blowing. Dave Filoni is going to be doing some crazy things with these characters, and I am all strapped in. I'm buckled up, ready to go, because this episode just blew my mind away. It's so rewatchable too, with all of the action and the fan service moments that actually have sort of a very strong connection to the characters, so they don't really feel cheesy. I cannot wait for the next episode. I'm so curious as to what you guys thought about this episode, so leave a comment telling me things that I possibly missed in this episode, things I didn't talk about, and just talk with each other about what you thought about this episode and the series as a whole so far. How excited were you to see Anakin return? I made a prediction a long time ago saying that he would come back, and we finally get to see him again. I actually do give this episode a 10 out of 10. Look, call me a shill, call me whatever you want, but I loved this to death, and I've watched it twice now, and I'm probably gonna watch it again. What does the world between worlds mean here? How did she get transported there? Was it the temple? Was it the waters on this planet? Or was it just sort of a dream state? Because Anakin is not a Force ghost here. He doesn't have an aura around him. So what is this? Is this possibly a trick in her mind? Is this even real? I hope all of these questions will be answered next episode, and hopefully we'll even get a flashback episode from the Clone Wars. I would lose my mind. But look, even at this point, this show has already given me everything that I've asked for. So whatever happens next, so be it. Now, don't ruin the show, just, keep it going. But I am very, very satisfied and very, very happy as a Star Wars fan at this moment. Thank you, Dave Filoni. Thank you, Star Wars. Thank you, George Lucas. Thank you to everybody who worked on this episode, and thank you guys for watching this video. I think we should just be very grateful to be sort of in this state of Star Wars right now, getting this amazing story that we are just now breaking the ice on and is going to go places that we never expected. We are in for a crazy ride in these next 4 weeks. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, leave your comments and hit subscribe if you guys want to keep up to date on everything Star Wars and Ahsoka, and talk to each other down there. I want to know your thoughts. I read every comment, and I most likely will respond. So until next time, I will see you all very soon.